Hi, my name is Vic Craft. Oh, I've got to read from the notes here. I am retired, as I've said, from aerospace. I spent a few years on active duty in the Air Force. I was trained as an aircraft maintenance technician, otherwise known as an AMP, or airframe and power plants mechanic. Got out of the service and went to work for McDonnell Douglas in St. Louis, built airplanes there. I was in field service as an instructor, and then went into program management. About that time, oh gosh, years and years ago, I met this lovely woman and got married and decided to move back to California where I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. San Fernando Valley was a very unique place on the planet in that just about everything new either came from there or went through there. This was back in the 50s and the 60s. Two industries promoted the San Fernando Valley to the world: aerospace and entertainment. An awful lot of the studios were there, or still are there, in the San Fernando Valley. And also a lot of aerospace concerns were there in building airplanes. And also, as in my neighborhood, Rocketdyne was there building Saturn V or C5 engines for the Apollo space mission. Excuse me. This was a very interesting time growing up there, very exciting actually. The San Fernando Valley grew by about five-fold in about 15 years from the beginning of World War II until 1960. So there had been this great expansion going on. I can remember going to school in one room schoolhouse, and we had 3 or 4 grades in the same room. The city of Los Angeles pretty much had a problem with infrastructure and responded very well, actually. Anyway, having that kind of an atmosphere growing up in the San Fernando Valley, with those two industries there, your neighbors were either in the entertainment industry or they were engineers or scientists. And on the one hand, the entertainment industry tried to help us dream of getting to the moon. Aerospace got us there. I had a very interesting education there, and about the time I graduated from high school, since my parents insisted that I go to college, I went reluctantly, but I did anyway. Vietnam was beginning to pick up about that time. And instead of fighting the selective service people who insisted that I go to Vietnam or go into the service, I went ahead and enlisted in the Air Force. The last job I ever really wanted to have was being an aircraft mechanic. I wanted to be a pilot. But with these eyes, it's not going to happen. The Armed Forces, in spite of the reputation that it has a very unique way of finding out what you're good at. Found out that I had an aptitude for aircraft maintenance. That's what they needed. And that's what I stayed in for about 8 years. With that in mind, I was immersed in aviation for most of my life. From beginning as a kid, my dad worked for, not a supplier, but a subcontractor to Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. I don't know if you're familiar with the Martian, Moody, and JPL was very, very much involved in a lot of that. Excuse me. But he worked there for a number of years. He was responsible for reviewing a lot of the publications, and he would bring something home at night to look at, and I would sneak a peek at it, and I would find out just how hard it was for us to get to the moon. It was an incredible engineering work. Anyway, growing up in Los Angeles and also moving back there, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here. We went ahead and my wife and I decided going back to Los Angeles, we would go ahead and make camp there. In spite of the riots, in spite of the earthquakes, in spite of the fires, inspired a lot of other things like road rage and whatever. You have to learn to be tough enough. It's not as easy as you think it is. I was laid off from aerospace along about the time the peace dividend happened. And I started a consulting company that lasted for about 10 years. And my last client decided that they couldn't live without me. They moved us from California to Virginia. Stayed in Virginia for a while, and then during the 2008 financial crisis, or the barrel, bottom fell out of the barrel, I had to look for a new job. We had always desired to come to Hawaii. This is where we were going to retire. Knowing that it was expensive, we knew what we were facing. We did it anyway. My daughter, who had already moved here, all of our kids knew that we were going to retire here, so all of them moved here one by one. But my daughter suggested, Dad, sell stuff, Craigslist, whatever, yard sales, give it away, put whatever you want to keep in storage, move on in with us. This we did. Took a succession of airplanes to get from Newport News to Honolulu, got here, and the plan was we were going to get a job, or I was going to get a job, that paid enough for me to get our stuff out of storage and move it here. You know how to make God happy, or make him laugh, make it plain. The plan was for us to find a job as soon as possible. It didn't happen. What did happen, I waited for a few months, and finally, locally, Island Air happened to need a manager of quality assurance. I was vetted by the FAA. They said, hire the guy. I did, stayed there for 4 years. Argued like nobody's business to keep the airline safe, keep it from falling out of the sky, until we finally decided time is enough, I'll do it. That presented a problem economically. Back in Virginia, I had a very good salary from the company that I was working with. When I came here, I had to cut the salary down to about a third of what I was making there. We had a lovely home, 4 bedrooms, on a lake, lovely trees around us, a couple of sushi bars in the neighborhood. Now we're going to come to this place and live with our eldest daughter. The impact on me was it affected the male. I'm the one that's supposed to be the breadwinner, and they're supposed to be living with me, not the other way around. So that was a very difficult time of transition. The rest of the family was okay with it. I was the problem. Looking at that, though, in terms of a budget, making very little money by comparison to what we were making in Virginia, how am I going to make ends meet? One thing that we learned, especially after Island Air and I departed the company, was to use an Excel spreadsheet. Making a budget is so, so important. I can't stress it enough. Doing that and looking at what your resources are and what your output is going to be, and comparing the two and seeing what you can do, allows you to go to the movies, allows you to go out for dinner. Very, very important. Being a member of Costco or Samsung also is very important. Having or buying in bulk may seem like an initial problem as far as coming up with buying a 50-pound bag of rice. But over a 6-month period, if you're not using it that much, it's cheaper that way. How am I doing so far? As far as making a budget, though, as I said, trying to make ends meet. Here I was, I'm not retired at this point, I was 65. What am I going to do? I was trying to find another job, so I went down to the local VA vet center. The vet center in Kapolei had just opened, and the vet center coordinator decided, hey, come on in, let's talk story. So I brought in an awful lot of my material from my active duty days. He started looking at the stuff and said, you know what, you got some issues here that haven't been dealt with. We filed for compensation. 3 years later, I got awarded only about 2 out of about 7 issues. So I had to file a notice of disagreement with the VA. Waited another 3 years to have a hearing with the law judge, who has now turned it back and remanded the issues back to the generating agency who's supposed to be reviewing this again, with the rules or with the instructions that if they don't award it to me, they better come up with a good reason as to why they aren't awarding it to me. So I feel very good about that, but still, I gotta wait. What I've done though let's see, during the period of time between when we got here and leaving Virginia, I started taking up writing. I write for Civil Beat, find my stuff in the community voice. But I also wrote a book, and we published it on Amazon. And I was told we did quite well. Just finished another book. It's called Sex, Aspirin, and Scotch. And having fun with that, we've also got 2 other novels we're trying to write. But that's basically how we make ends meet, is in terms of trying to look at the income and the outgo. Gotta have a spreadsheet. It's about the best thing I can think of. So the last one, I think, Jeff pointed this out, as far as the closing. Is this how George Carlin got started? Oh, that's right. In my life, I have lived comfortably by middle-class standards. Making ends meet in Hawaii and paying the paradise tax is a challenge. I would even imagine folks with larger income can be tough, or it can be rough. However, in the words of Mrs. George Kaufman, Beatrice, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is better. And while I like to give rich a try, I'm still extremely fortunate to be living here, where so many other people would give up the place to trade.